1, 2, 3.
It's time to talk fantasy football. Get your squad ready for this week's action with Frank and the Purple Rain crew. Now, live from the Fantasy Wire studios and home of the Casual Conversation podcast, it's the Purple Rain Fantasy Show.
Welcome to the Purple Rain Show. We're a proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Network. You're listening to the home of the Casual Conversation Fantasy Football podcast. Welcome to week 2 of the NFL and fantasy season. I'm your host, Frank B. You can find me on Twitter at FantasyWireHQ and online at thefantasyfootballwire.com. On the website, you can find all this week's starts and sits, risk-reward players, updated rankings, much more. Make sure you check it out, bookmark it, fantasyfootballwire.com. Today, I'm joined by my co-host from the Purple Rain Show. Great writer. Check out his third and long Ravens articles each week, Matt Jergensen, and you can find him on Twitter at Matt Jergs. What's up, man?
Oh, man, it's week 2 in the NFL coming up, and I'm still basking in the glow of a Ravens throttling of the Miami Dolphins. So we ought to be feeling pretty good right now.
I'm loving it. Loving it. It was nice to see a video game offense for once out of the Ravens.
Yeah, it exactly looked like, not even a game of Madden. I'm going to say more like old school Tecmo Bowl.
NFL
just
Blitz.
Hitting that, yeah, man, just hitting that bomb, play after play. I mean, it was exciting. We just haven't seen that from the Ravens really ever. I mean, they've had some times they've been prolific, but not, there was no pick six. There was no defensive touchdown. It was all offense. And when it comes to fantasy football, I mean, you're going to start to hear a lot of Ravens names for a change, which is really exciting.
Yes, Ravens are the doormat of the fantasy world as far as offense goes. Receivers, I mean, I'd never even come near, my own team's players for fantasy picks at all. But I don't care if it was the Dolphins. Doesn't matter to me. It's a win. We'll see what they do against Arizona, one game at a time. And I mean, week 1's a glorified extended preseason game pretty much for starters. So it can always be a toss up as far as players being rusty or you name it. You never know what you're going to get sometimes.
No, I mean, in this coming up this week, they have the home opener. They welcome in the Arizona Cardinals, who have a young, exciting quarterback of their own. And it will be a homecoming for Terrell Suggs. So There's a lot of storylines already brewing as Arizona is going to get ready to come into M&T Bank this weekend.
Definitely. Yeah, I can't wait. We'll be watching that one for sure. We can get on with the fantasy world. So again, thanks for downloading this episode. Do me a favor and give it a retweet on Twitter, share on Facebook, leave a review. If there's anything you guys want to hear on the podcast, let us know on Twitter. We're all active. We're on there posting stuff all the time. So just comment, send us a DM, whatever you want to do, and let us know what you're looking to hear. With that, we can get in the first segment here. Let's talk about some NFL news and injury updates. Running through a quick waiver wire. Tyreek Hill, I'm sure everybody's heard the news on Hill. He's going to be out for a little while, 6 to 7 weeks, so take your Sammy Watkins shares. Redskins, Darius Geis, MRI this morning on his other non-ACL knee, so he's likely to miss some time there. Darren Waller is your man. No injuries, but he's definitely a part of the Raiders' offense. Keep an eye on him. Malik Jackson, defense for all you IDP guys. He's done for the 19 season with Liz Frank injury. I'm scrolling through here, man. I don't know. I think we pretty much all get our alerts on our phone. We've got Tevin Coleman of the Niners with a high ankle sprain. They're not going to have to place him on IR, but the team most likely will have to add a running back. Otherwise, fantasy world, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert are your guys behind him. Devin Funchess for the Colts. He was a guy I was pretty high on this offseason for drafting. I liked what he was going to do or what he was shaping up to do in the red zone with Andrew Luck, but we had Andrew Luck retire, and now Devin Funchess, collarbone, injured reserve. He is done. Sterling Shepard is in the concussion protocol. Whoa. We all know how that can go. Nick Foles, everybody heard there. Fractured left clavicle, IR, out at least 8 weeks. So quite a few noteworthy injuries. Keep an eye on them with your fantasy squads. Check backups. Check who's next in line. Definitely check the waiver wire, which we will be talking about here shortly. But now we can get into some starts and sits. So Matt, who are we liking this week for some starts? Like I said, we said earlier, glorified preseason week 1. Week 2 seems to come into focus a little bit, and then week 3 is usually, the cream's starting to rise to the top as far as teams separate a little bit. You get some kind of identity to an extent, but fantasy world, who you like this week?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm really excited because I'm in 3 fantasy leagues, and certainly we have our own fantasy league, Purple Rain Show Fantasy League. I got victories in all 3 leagues, so I'm feeling even better to couple that with a victory for my Ravens. But looking at the quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, in week 2 against Arizona, that looks like a good play. Cam Newton kind of making a rebound against the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Father Time Phillip Rivers, who is kind of the Iron Man. He always seems to get left out of the conversation. He's a guy you're able to pick up late, still delivers when you need him.
Definitely. Give me some running backs, receivers, and tight ends.
All right, guys, for the running back, I like this. I think is finally the breakout year for Derrick Henry. Mark Ingram definitely had a big game against Miami, but then again, what Raven didn't.
Right.
I think that should continue against Arizona. And another guy I really like that I have on 2 of my teams, Chris Carson. I think he'll have a good game again going against Pittsburgh. Wide receiver-wise, you mentioned Sammy Watkins. He's going to be the number 1. He had a career game in week 1. I like him against Oakland. T.Y. Hilton, some people probably got cool on him once Andrew Luck retired. He showed again that he's still going to be the main target, and Jacoby Brissett should be able to find him against Tennessee. And, we talked about a little bit off air. Do you go with Josh Gordon here, or do you go with Antonio Brown? I think you got to pay attention and see what the plan is with him. Are they just going to let him loose in the offense in week 2, or will Gordon get the call? Because we saw that Miami defense, and they were simply horrendous.
Yes, they're checking
tight
out.
End. Yeah. I'm already in week 1, and I think we have the discussion about the plan of tanking for Tua and things like that. Delaney Walker, a guy who's come off an injury, looks good. O.J. Howard from Tampa Bay, and I always like Zach Ertz as a play, and this week they play the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, I was going to go with Lamar Jackson against the Cardinals. You got to love him. Mobile quarterback, defense shaky. They tied with Detroit. I like that matchup a lot. I also like Deshaun Watson against the Jags. Dak Prescott against the Redskins. I think those are both good games. And Deshaun Watson, the Monday night game, he is so impressive. It was a great game. It was like game of the week. I had my eye on it. It was one of my top games I was going to be paying a little closer attention to this week, and it delivered above and beyond. So I think against the Jags, we saw what Mahomes did. Obviously, that's Mahomes, but I think Watson could be just as dangerous. Running backs, I like Zeke against the Skins. Dalvin Cook against the Packers. I know the Packers shut the run down pretty good on Chicago week 1, but Dalvin Cook that guy's a force, man, and he's given...
If he can stay healthy, he's going to have a huge year.
Yeah, and he's given the Packers fits in the past. He's had some pretty good games. Even Kirk Cousins has showed up, but, if the defense is going to be stingy, I'm looking for Cook to get a lot of catches out of the backfield. Christian McCaffrey against the Bucks, of course. Austin Eckler for going against the Lions for the Chargers, taking Melvin Gordon's spot. He had a monster game.
Yeah.
He's a stud. I don't think they're too worried about Gordon with him playing.
Not at all.
No. Wide receiver, Tyrell Williams versus the Chiefs. Marquise Brown. If you've got Brown on your fantasy squad, you might as well run him till he busts. Going against the Cardinals, I don't know, is he going to draw Patrick Peterson? Are they going to move him around? Are they going to give him the bubble screens? Stuff like that. I'd roll him out there again. You got to do it. The ceiling is just too high for this guy. You got to run him out there Another one
Yeah.
for the Bears, I was going to go Allen Robinson against the Broncos. Robinson showed up real well against Green Bay. I like him again against Denver. Tight end, I'm going to go O.J. Howard against the Panthers. Mark Andrews again, going back to that Ravens game. Hey, I'm going to ride Ravens starters while they're hot.
Absolutely.
Till they fizzle out, keep them in the lineups. And then Darren Waller for the Raiders going against the Chiefs. He's going to get Jared Cook's target share. Antonio Brown is gone. His opportunity, I think, is really not talked about enough. And if you were lucky enough to grab him in fantasy leagues before the season, then hats off to you, because he was definitely one of those sleeper picks that a lot of people completely forgot about. So those will be my guys for some starts this week for sure. And I'm going to have them up on the website hopefully tomorrow or Thursday as well. So you can check them out on there. We go into the sits. Get rid of these guys. Sit them this week. Who do you like for some sit on your bench, maybe cool off? These are tough for me on week 2. Week 2 and 3, like I said, those are tough weeks for me in fantasy trying to make lineup decisions. You got to go with the obvious, but some of the sits are a little harder this week, I thought, running through them.
Well, and I think, again, like you said, the NFL is a week-to-week league, and it really depends on the matchups. And, a guy who looks good the first go-around, just may not have a good matchup second time. So it's not always about, this idea of momentum and how you play week 1 is how you play week 2. But I don't know. In terms of quarterbacks, I've got Jameis Winston. He looked dreadful in week 1. I don't think that's going to change very much as he played a divisional foe. Sam Darnold, I'm still not sold on him, and I kind of think Cleveland has to tighten up a little bit after that week 1 debacle, and in terms of what their expectations were, and they just totally laid an egg at home and got blown out by the Titans. And I'm still not, Kirk Cousins didn't have to throw very many passes in week 1. Who knows? He may not have to do it very much. If I'm Minnesota, I'm feeding Dalvin Cook as much as possible, even though they have a complement of receivers. Right. I'm not sure he's going to have a lot of points, but it doesn't mean that Minnesota won't be effective. Running back-wise, Devonta Freeman. And again, a guy who I think a lot of people probably picked from Houston, Duke Johnson Jr. I think they're realizing, again, he'll be a pass catcher, but I don't know if he's going to be a guy you're really going to be able to start a lot. I think he's going to have carries taken away from him as they play Jacksonville. And Kenyon Drake, he was 100%, but nothing went right for Miami. I'm not sure it's going to be much better as they take on the Patriots.
Nope.
Looking at wide receiver, Jarvis Landry from Cleveland, I think he got close to the same amount of targets as Beckham, but it will be interesting to see how that locker room handled getting throttled week 1. Is this going to start where they're really going to look at trying to really feed Beckham and maybe having some of that affect Landry's workload? Another guy who you're going to hear me kind of give a lot of grief to is Corey Davis. He's a guy who I picked as kind of a flyer. He did absolutely nothing in week 1, 0 for 3 on targets. Just really has been a big disappointment at this point. If you have him, look for a better option. There's got to be better ones out there.
Right.
At tight end, Kyle Rudolph again is kind of a boom bust guy.
Ooh, here we go.
Segments later on, but again, he didn't get a whole lot of looks. Noah Fant, I think a lot of people thought, at least me included, that Joe Flacco loves his tight ends, and Fant didn't get really a chance much to shine early on. It may be difficult with a tough matchup against the Bears. And I'm saying sit Vernon Davis. He had a great week 1, but to me, you're looking at this, Vernon Davis is that typical tight end, that low-range tight end you pick up, has an explosion week 1. You see a lot, nothing week 2. So that's what I'm looking at for the sits for this week.
Yeah, it's tough. I look through there, and there's a lot of guys I go back and forth on. Maybe they'll come into a little clearer focus for me, next couple days. But for now, I'm going Jacoby Brissett against the Titans. They took care of Baker Mayfield. I think a lot of people either underestimated Tennessee this early. They had a game plan together. Defensively, they look strong to shut the Browns down the way they did. I think it's a little blend of,
Yeah.
like I said, 50-50 not showing up or being that prepared, but they looked impressive. Other quarterbacks, I go Matt Stafford against the Chargers. It's a tough defense. Darnold against the Browns, like you said. Running back, I was going to go Phillip Lindsay against the Bears. The Bears defense is for real, man. And that run game, they can take care of that. Marlon Mack against the Titans again. James Conner versus the Dolphins. I know that's a kind of a strange one, but if you look at the history of New England going down to Miami, they've never really fared too well, and they've taken losses down there more often than not. I don't think this week would be that kind of scenario, but you can't rule it out.
Right.
That's just the Patriots took care of Connor and kind of forced it to go through Big Ben. Connor got some. I don't know. We'll see if the game plan's a little different for the Dolphins to focus on the run game and shutting that down. Wide receivers, like you said, Corey Davis against the Colts. I think he had 3 targets last week for week 1, but he had 74% of the snaps. So it's like, come on, man. I don't want to test him against the Colts defense either, because they were much improved last year, and they're going to have to carry the team this season. So other than that, I was looking at Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald was one I almost wanted to put him in the starts, but then when I look at his matchup against the Ravens, is he going to draw Jimmy Smith or Humphrey? Either way, I mean, he's an older receiver, but with the pass rush, the Ravens are going to throw on Murray. I think Murray's going to be scrambling all over the place. Can Fitzgerald get open? I mean, I know he's a crafty vet, but it's the time under pressure kind of thing. So I would put him in the sits for now. And then tight ends, I was looking.
Well, to help on that, Frank, Jimmy Smith looks like he's going to be out the next couple of weeks.
Is he?
He's one of the only injuries that came out of last week. So Anthony Avent really came in for a lot of the number 2 action. So you could see him draw Marlon Humphrey, who did have a pick in week 1. So it's really going to depend on the matchups there.
Right, absolutely. And then tight ends, I was going Vance McDonald against the Seahawks. Eric Ebron versus the Titans, and like you said, Noah Fant against the Bears too. Their linebackers are physical, they're fast. I think they can take care of Fant. And Joe Flacco, I don't know, he's gonna have heat like he's never had before in this game. So he's gonna have his hands full there.
It's gonna be rough, I think.
I think so, yeah. Chicago's not playing around. They're gonna get better, I think, over the second quarter of the season, and they're gonna come into focus. I mean, they look dangerous come mid-season here. We'll see what they do. All right, we can do let's do a little rapid fire, Matt. What do you say?
All right, let's do it.
Let's do some rapid fire questions, and we'll do them in the format of just run through 5, answer off the top of your head. Don't spend too much time thinking, just answer. Okay. Quick take. I don't know. What do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
All right, I got it. All right, I'll go first. Now, you want me to give you one, you give an answer, and just kind of bounce back and forth?
Let's run through 5 right down the bat.
Okay.
Boom, just like they do on
I'll do
PTI or whatever.
All right, so I'll do my 5 and run through them quick. All right,
hit me.
All right, so the Pats just rolled Pittsburgh. Are we going to be forced to see another Super Bowl appearance by the Patriots?
Yes.
Yes.
Say that reluctantly.
Again, going back to the Steelers. I know. I mean, again, is this just a bad matchup because the Patriots seem to always have the Steelers' number, or they finally to decline?
Matchup. Did I lose you?
3.
Sorry.
I may have lost you for a minute. What was your answer to that?
Let's repeat.
Are the Steelers on decline?
Oh.
Go ahead. I'm saying, are the Steelers now finally starting to decline, or was that loss just a bad matchup loss? Patriots always seem to have their number. Are we finally going to see the Steelers kind of decline and maybe have them need to retool in the future?
No, I was going matchup on that one.
Yeah, I gotcha. Nick Foles is out. Unfortunately, he had a really nice touchdown pass, but paid all that money for him. He's done. Gardner Minshew III did very well coming in. Can he be the quarterback for the foreseeable future? Lead the Jags to some victories?
I think so. He's a rookie. He had a nice outing and did a little more than what was asked of him. And I know they brought in Josh Dobbs from the Steelers. I don't know if they're trying to give this guy some competition, but I think he is for real. I think he can do it.
All right. And what about the Cleveland Browns? The Cleveland Browns were the talk of the offseason. They lay a huge egg, 18 penalties. Are the Browns still the Browns?
No. I don't think that's the real Browns. I think they will give us the Ravens a run for the money like last season, and I think they've got too much talent on that team to stay the old Browns and do what they do. I'm not saying they're going to be gangbusters like Rams or elite kind of stuff, but there's just too much talent there that they can't be successful. There's a lot of personalities, and I think this first quarter of the season is where that's going to get worked out. And then halfway through the season, I think we're going to see a pretty decent team, pretty good team out of Cleveland.
All right, fair enough. And the last question I have for you, you mentioned my weekly segment, Third and Long. I've got a lot of different stuff on there. One of the things is food. What is your go-to food on Sunday when you're watching the football games? What are you going with?
It's got to be pizza, man. I know that's so cliche, but it is total pizza. I don't have an off switch for pizza, so I can sit down and bang out an extra large, like no sweat. I can't do a lot of toppings because I got acid reflux because of a goofball. So it's just straight cheese, man, and I'll just devour it. I love it. I just can't. I love pizza on game day.
All right, now is there a place out there that you go to? What's the plan?
Well, out here in Wisconsin, the local pizza place would be Eaton's, and they got a lot of good pies in there. But it's Eaton's. It's local. I always like local stuff, cheese. Man. Yeah, local stuff is always good. You always got to support the local businesses and restaurants, And they're down the street from me. They're great. They always deliver good stuff, man. I always hook them up every week.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the local businesses. Just a quick point before we get to year 5. Speaking of pizza, Papa John's, they have a whole tie-in with the NFL for years now. Because the Ravens scored as many touchdowns as they did, they had to offer a 16-topping pizza for $8.99, which is usually the day after game day, so on Monday. And the question was, could you actually think of 16 toppings? So I had to really give it some thought. And I actually tweeted that out on Monday. I actually had to give it some thought. I got a little tweet back from Papa John's. So
nice.
So that was kind of interesting. If any pizza fans in the Maryland area, if they took advantage of that deal and got a pizza with a whole bunch of stuff on top.
What were the most obscure?
I went to, your typical, pineapple, ham, jalapeno, ground beef, onion, to go with all your regular pep and sausage and extra cheese and all that good stuff. So it was not easy. I admit I had to look it up. It's not like I got all 16 kind of off the top of my head. I had to go searching a little bit. Yeah,
you got to dig down there a little ways too. And speaking of Eden's, when I go in there, they got it all on like a digital iPad or whatever. You run through your order, and now that I think of their toppings, you can scroll through a good page and a half of stuff. And I bet you I could. I bet you I could find 16 out of there. I don't have to look next time I go in there.
Yeah, absolutely. But nothing beats the local business. Always support local.
Yes.
I'm 100% behind that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Frank, what do you got for me, rapid fire style?
All right, let's go. The first one, and these are, I'll do it pretty quick. Ravens tight end Mark Andrews. Top 10 tight end this season, real life or fantasy, doesn't matter. What say you?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
No question about it. Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, double down on that.
I don't see why he wouldn't, and I don't understand the doubt this offseason that some people had that he wouldn't be. So it's Lamar's guy, man. He's got the chemistry with him. Number 2.
Yep, absolutely.
Way too early Super Bowl pick. Who do you like this year? I love early Super Bowl picks. Pick? Yeah, way too early Super Bowl pick.
Oh my God. Way too early Super Bowl pick. Patriots on the AFC side. You're saying to win the Super Bowl or to be in the Super Bowl?
Just matchup, Super Bowl matchup. Your Super
All right,
Bowl
matchup.
matchup.
I got the Patriots. I'll say the Patriots and the Seahawks.
Okay, another one. That would be a good
That's
good
what I got.
rematch from their prior.
I mean, I'm sick of seeing the Patriots, but
Yeah.
right now, I mean, I'm just a firm believer in a lot of this. You got to show me different. You know, it's right now they're still the AFC team to beat. KFC probably close second. In the NFC, there's probably a mix of about 4 or 5 teams I could see making a run, and right now I've got Seattle. So Seattle and the Patsies.
All right, biggest surprise of week 1.
Biggest surprise of week 1. I could go with a couple of things. Tyreek Hill getting hurt was, I hate to say, somewhat of a karmic surprise. I don't want to say pleasant. You want to say pleasant when someone gets hurt. But, you know, considering all the issues he had in the offseason, and people were trying to figure out whether he was going to be able to play or not. And now it ends up he won't be playing for a little while. So that was probably a big surprise in terms of injury.
And then biggest shocker of week 1.
Biggest shocker, I actually watched some of this, was the Jets coming back to defeat. Oh, no, it was the other way around, wasn't it? Didn't the Bills win?
Correct.
It shows you how close I paid attention to it. the Jets, it was one of those that came on, you know, after the drubbing, like they're like, hey, let's switch to the next game. And my son and I are watching the end of the Jets-Bills game, and I'm like, wait a minute, weren't the Jets up by like 3 touchdowns at one point? Now it came down to the end, and Darnold, again, just couldn't get it done, and the Bills ended up, you know, coming out with a win. You know, you had seen Jay Mosley, former Raven, with a pick 6, and everybody was kind of feeling good. Le'Veon Bell and the Jets, again, kind of a popular pick to make some noise. And no, not so much.
Last one, best NFL rivalry, any era. Best one.
Well, any era, of course, I'm going to go Ravens-Steelers, but that seems a little biased, right? I mean, I don't know. I could probably go, if I want to go further back, to be a little more fair and go, look, I'm not going to pick the Ravens. Probably go, one of my favorites always was the Chargers Raiders, back old AFC West. When the Baltimore Colts, and I say Baltimore Colts, when they left, I adopted, for whatever reason, the Chargers as kind of like my team.
Yeah.
They had Dan Fouts. They threw the ball all the time. Their uniforms were cool. So that started to become, like, for me, that was a big rivalry that I always kind of tried to follow, even though it was all West Coast stuff.
Definitely. I can see that one. Yeah, there's so many good rivalries.
Yeah.
They're not really what they used to be to an extent. But, yeah, I mean, the Ravens-Steelers, nothing beats that for that run. It's still good. It's definitely still good. But, I mean, the heyday of the cheap shots and knockouts and trash talking and Ray Lewis breaking Mendenhall's shoulder on that game. I will never forget that game. That's one I'll
Willis
never forget.
McGahee getting his wig split by Ryan Clark.
Yes.
Poor guy just laying there. We could go on and on. You're right. It doesn't have the same sting as it used to because the trash talk's been a little limited, but it's still a good matchup.
Yeah.
It's divisional.
Absolutely. Let's jump into some risk and reward starts this week. So these will be some guys just kind of like a boom or bust risk reward. If you play them on your fantasy roster, they could go off, or they could just tank, or they could give you minimal points. They could give you a maximum. But who are some guys this week that you'd kind of throw into that category, you think?
Well, I mean, David Montgomery is a guy, running back for Chicago. I mean, he didn't have a huge week 1. Maybe he goes off big. He was somebody in the offseason people thought was going to be a centerpiece for the offense. So, he might be somebody to look at. I mean, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, about him earlier. I think we kind of weren't sure about how much time he was actually going to get. And then he just literally blew past the defense a couple of times, put up major fantasy points. You'd have to figure he might right now be a boom bust option.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him coming back this week and, not getting a whole lot of snaps or not getting a ton of looks and, doesn't put up a lot of points. Or you could see the same thing all over again where he just rips the lid off the defense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are a couple guys that come to mind right away.
Yeah, I would go for – we talked about Tom Brady going down to Miami and the history there. I don't think this would be the week based off of the last week's performance and all the news out of Miami about the players wanting to jump ship. But Tommy Brady, you never know. I mean, he could drop one there. Trubisky against the Broncos, which he didn't do much against the Packers. Packers' game plan was to force Trubisky to beat him, and he couldn't get it done. He had some decent throws, he had some bad throws against the Broncos. I mean, they're gonna come at him too. Von Miller, you know, they got a good pass rush as well, so we'll see how that plays out. He could be a high risk reward kind of player.
Yeah, Trubisky's a good pick there. He's a good pick there because I'm not totally sold on him at all. I still have too many memories of him a couple of years ago when he Baltimore and I think he threw the ball 6 times and the Ravens still lost that game, which was just one of the worst games I've ever seen live. But I agree. I agree on the Trubisky pick. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd go Trubisky there, and then running back like the Packers, Aaron Jones against the Vikings. That defensive line is stout. Is he going to be able to create running lanes? The offensive line playing against the Bears for the Packers, they looked atrocious in getting running lanes set up and run blocking. Pass blocking, they were okay. They did give up the 6 sacks, but they still got the job done. And Minnesota, division rival, that's a pretty heated rivalry up here. But Aaron Jones, I think, you know, he's a guy, I've got him in a few lineups. If I play him, I think he's got some potential to go off with catching stuff out of the backfield. But if the Vikings take the run away, they're going to shut him right down. Wide receiver, I was going to go John Brown against the Giants. I think John Brown has always been your ultimate boom or bust guy. Whether, you know, he catches 2 balls for 100 and some yards or he doesn't show up at all with, you know, 3 points. Josh Gordon against the Dolphins. He's another one. I this past week against the Steelers, he shined, but there was no Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown comes back. Is he going to take, you know, they're going to try to funnel the ball to him? Is it going to go the other way where it opens up stuff for him? You know, I like his ceiling a little more with the presence of Antonio Brown. So it's hard to say how that will play out. I don't think you can go wrong if you play him, but be prepared for maybe some single-digit stuff. And tight ends, Jimmy Graham against the Vikings again, Kyle Rudolph on the other side of the ball. Both ways, they're chain movers, and the pass rush is key in this game. So if the pass rush is effective, I think they could have a high ceiling with dump-off passes and just checkdowns. If it's time to throw, scrambled kind of stuff, you know, maybe there are a few catches here and there, maybe 1 touchdown. It's hard to say, but I'd say those would be my risk-reward tight ends.
Yeah, so there's some good ones right there. I mean, you mentioned John Brown. He's a typical...
Isn't he? He's always...
He is. He definitely fits the profile of boom bust. He had a great week 1, so yeah, keep in mind he might not follow it up week 2.
Yeah. So we can jump into some waiver watch. Fantasy football waivers are going to be hot and heavy right now. Everybody's plugging in. It's hard to make a lot of moves early. I mean, you get so tempted by these guys with big games. You know, you see these guys go off and you're like, oh shit, I got to get him. I got to dump somebody. I got to get this guy. And then you get him and then he turns into nothing. It was a mirage. It's hard to say. I try to my own rule is really don't make any moves until week 2 or 3, but I'm almost compelled to make some moves this week. Any guys you like this week for waivers of any position group?
Well, if he's still available, get Marquise Brown. I think that was that's something. It's like you were saying after that first week, just a huge blow up, and there was so much unknown with him going in, and then you kind of get an idea just on a couple of plays what he can do. You see that speed. He's absolutely a guy that if he's not taken already, you should already have him. Darren Waller, oh man, another former Raven. Really interesting to hear about his story. Just basically saying he just was not in any kind of frame of mind to really even play football. I mean, you see his measurables. He's this huge target, and I mean, it's really good that he's finally putting together. Although it's for a different team, but I mean, he had 8 targets, went 7 for 70 week one. When you're looking for guys, I mean, he is really somebody that, with his skill set, could really have a great year in that Raider offense. And then Joe Mixon, Joe Mixon just can't stay healthy. And each time you kind of think he's gonna, kind of break out a little bit, here comes Gio Bernard once again, a good handcuff. And I noticed in a lot of leagues, he wasn't a guy that was picked. So he was available in a lot of leagues, I think. And like you said, he's definitely going to get some action this week. And it'll be interesting kind of moving forward where that shakes out with the Cincinnati offense.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially without A.J. Green. And then when he does come back, I mean, that can open up. Their line isn't the greatest, so that's kind of a tough one there. But yeah, deep leagues for sure. I'd pick him up if he's there.
Yeah, you're always looking for running backs. At least that's what it always seems like for me. I'm always looking for a runner at some point. So stashing a running back is usually a good idea.
Yeah, I was going to go this week for week one. I mean, this is your trending players really just based off of one performance. But Jamison Crowder, I think, has done a little more for the Jets. He's a slot guy. Slot guys have always done well in Adam Gase's offense, no matter who they are. But I think Crowder and Darnold, they got a pretty good chemistry going. And this past week, he had 17 targets, 14 catches, 99 yards, and a rush. I like him. And then for the Rams, running back Malcolm Brown, he's about 10% owned right now. And it was Brown this week, not the Darrell Henderson, that saw the most opportunity. I think he had 11 carries, 48 yards. He had 2 scores. But if Gurley is going to miss time or they're going to phase him out or whatever his mystery deal is, I think Brown's got the most, he's got the most upside in that offense, I think. So I like him. And then Washington Redskins, Terry McLaurin, 2% owned. This guy is like, if I said Terry McLaurin, you'd be like, does this guy sell insurance? Did I go to high school with him? But he played.
Yeah, he sat next to me in history.
Yeah, this guy said the name. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? But no, he did good playing with Dwayne Haskins, so they're teammates. Now, if Keenum doesn't come around or ultimately loses the job, Haskins is in. He's got a chemistry with him from college. I think he gets even better. But this past week, he had 7 targets, turned that into 5 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Jordan Reed is already hurt. There's really not much on that roster for the Redskins for, pass catchers. So I think McLaurin's got the most, potential out of there, and he could have the most productive season out of any of them. So I would grab him. He's going to be probably the most sought after, I think, on that performance, especially if you got people East Coast, bias, Washington, locally, Maryland, DMV area. They're going to know that guy and pick him up. Yeah. And then, like you said, Darren Waller, the Raiders. It is good to see some former Ravens do well. And we talked about that earlier on our starts and stuff, that Oakland's release of Antonio Brown, I mean, you've got his breakout potential for 19 looking real nice. So Tyrell Williams also benefits from Brown being released, but even without Jared Cook, all the targets. Jared Cook last year, now that he's in New Orleans, but last year on the Raiders, he had season totals, 68 receptions, 896 for total yardage, 6 touchdowns on 101 targets. And that was the wide receiver kind of deficient roster. So with Williams in there to take some of the coverage, Waller, I think he's definitely a waiver wire add in the tight end game. In the fantasy world, we all know how tough that is to lock a guy in on your roster, because if you don't have, a top 5, you're flipping tight ends each week is pretty much streamers, So those would be my picks.
Absolutely.
Pick them up. So let's get into a new segment here. This is going to be a new segment we're going to do. It's called the Show Me Sunday Shortlist. Let's intro that up and get this ready here. Hold on.
Screw you! You're fired! You're fired! Whoa! You're fired! You're fired!
All right, these are guys that you are dropping from your roster. Week 1, I know it's early, and sometimes people don't drop players just to drop them, but if you've got those guys on your roster that are pissing you off, that you're like, I already don't like you, you're not in my fantasy football plans, then drop them. So for me, this week, personally, I've got one guy that's off my roster, Geronimo Allison, wide receiver for the Packers. I love this guy. I'm a fan of his. But if you give me a goose egg, 0 on my fantasy result, and I started him in my flex, and that's why I lost this week too. But yeah, 0 targets. He was supposed to be working with Marquez Valdes-Scantling in this wide receiver package, and he wasn't even targeted. Something to me smells fishy. I don't know. Maybe he'll be all right. He's a drop for me this week. Peyton Barber for the Bucks, 8 attempts, 33 yards. He had 2 receptions for 12 and 36% of the snaps. I think that Tampa Bay backfield's going the other way. Devin Funchess, obviously, he's hurt, but yeah, he's probably sitting on a lot of rosters. You could definitely cut him. And my last guy this week, and I know I'm going to get some looks here, but I was going to go Frank Gore. Singletary is coming. This guy is good. He's really good. I think he's going to steal that backfield from Frank Gore, man. I really do.
How old is Frank Gore now? I mean, I don't want to hate
him.
Is he applying for his... Does he have his AARP card yet? I mean, Frank Gore's had a great career, but how's he? He's still hanging around.
I love the guy. He's from Miami. He's Hurricane. Love this guy from day one. But I think he's good. I'm not saying he's bad. He's a good player. But I think Singletary behind him is coming on. He's going to come on too strong, and I think he's ultimately going to take the job over. So if you got Gore, I would just drop him and grab Singletary, or try to trade out Gore for Singletary somehow. Maybe do something like that. You could do a 2-player trade offer with Gore, maybe, and somebody else just to get Singletary. If you got a lower wide receiver to kind of even the trade or something, do a 2-for-1, something like that. But those would be my drops this week.
Yeah, the top of my list, I think I mentioned his name already, Corey Davis. He again threw up the goose egg in a game where your team scores 43 points and you can't even register 1 fantasy point. Tells me something about what they think of you and whether you're going to be in the long-term plans or not. I think Marcus Mariota, 333, I think that might have been the number, and he didn't get a sniff. I mean, he caught a couple targets, and that was about it. So he did not last long. He was dropped. Another guy, Deebo Samuel from San Francisco. I mean, it looks a little too crowded for him right now among the receiving core. And this might not be a big surprise, but I was one of those, I kind of thought, because Kenyon Drake was injured. I got the backup Kalen Ballage, who was kind of going to get the first team snaps. Obviously, that didn't happen, and it's not really based on the production, or I should say lack thereof, against the Ravens, because nothing went right for Miami. But it looks like going forward that Drake is really going to be the guy, and it's going to take a couple of weeks. And frankly, there are better options than him, so I let him loose.
Yeah, there you go. I agree there. Yeah, it's hard this early on dropping guys.
But you mentioned something already again about Todd Gurley. What is your advice on Todd Gurley? He was a guy that, I actually put a big red X over that said, do not draft, because I think I wasn't the only one. A lot of people kind of were worried since, that debacle of what happened over the Super Bowl, of what his on this Rams team. I mean, if you have him, and I know a lot of people still have him, they drafted him. What do you do?
Yeah, he's one. I don't know. My plan this year with Gurley was I wasn't going to go after him in a fantasy draft, but if he fell to me at the right spot, I would take him, only because maybe he has a good couple games and I can trade him, or he does come back and he is Gurley of old, but he wasn't around in any of them. He did get taken up a couple spots later than I anticipated, or earlier than I anticipated. But if you have him, I just watching that Panthers game. I watched the highlights of that. It wasn't on by me, but I caught the highlights. I looked at the stat line and everything, and it's almost is he kind of injured, and McVay and the Rams are keeping him healthy by not playing him as much, or situational start, kind of you're in the game here? Because the backfield, it's almost like it's going to be a running back committee with Brown and Henderson and Gurley. If Brown's going to emerge, Gurley is just situational at that point, and then he's healthy throughout the season. And when they get into the postseason, you've got a fully healthy Gurley with no knee issues. Is that the goal? That's the only kind of thing that makes sense to me. But, I mean, it's a mystery thing, and nobody knows. It's tight-lipped. It's red China. We're never going to find out. Just like the Malcolm Butler benching of the Super Bowl. OJ, did he do it? All this stuff. We're never going to know this stuff. That would be my game plan with Gurley. If you have him, I wouldn't drop him yet. I'd maybe dangle him for some trade and just see what you could get just to test the market. And maybe this week he has a nice game, and it's hard to say. It depends on how you value him. But, yeah, he's right in the middle for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just made sure to stay away from him, and I was lucky enough that I didn't have to pick him or didn't have to have that quandary.
Yep.
But if his backups have been available, you mentioned Malcolm Brown, those are guys you might want to scoop up and see what happens as the weeks progress.
Absolutely. Let's get into some real life NFL pick'em. Let's jump into this intro here.
All right.
What kind of horse y'all got? Lion horse. What kind of horse y'all got? Lion horse. What kind of horse y'all got? Lion horse. Y'all boys ready? Yeah. Y'all boys ready? Yeah. No, y'all boys ain't ready? Shit. Somebody light me up. Boom.
All right, the NFL Pick'em Week. These are picks that we're going to do with the point spreads, and I'm going to do them live. These are my picks going in as we do them right now to my family league. I'm not going to look at them during the week. I'm going to do them here every week, and however it plays out, it plays out. So we'll do a moderate rapid fire style, but let's roll through the slate of games here. We've got Tampa Bay, Carolina. Panthers favored 6.5. What do you think on that?
I'm going Panthers.
Yeah, I think they can handle the Bucks. They can beat them by a touchdown for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Chargers and the Lions. Lions getting 2.5 points. I'm going to go Chargers. I think they can totally smash Detroit at this point. I mean, they put up overtime Week 1, I don't see why the Chargers can't put this game away for sure.
Yeah, I'd go Chargers on that. Absolutely. I still like Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Stafford, even though he had a little bit of a bounce back, he had a rough year last year. I'm not totally sold there. Yeah, I'd go with Old Man Rivers.
Yeah. Titans and Colts. Titans are favored 3.5 against the Colts. I saw them dismantle Cleveland. Can they do it against the Colts? A little better defense that's more gelled as a unit. I think they're good. The Colts defense will put up a little tougher fight than Cleveland did, but I'm going to give Colts the points. I think if that's a tight game, it's going to be a 21-20, you know what I mean? Kind of 23-20 something. So you're not going to get that hook on there. I'll go Colts. I'm going to be a goofball.
There's division. This game being played, is it in Indy?
This is at Tennessee.
It's at Tennessee. I'm going Tennessee.
Tennessee, all right.
I agree. I agree. I saw a little bit out of them in that defeat of Cleveland, and I think they've been flying under the radar a little bit. Divisional game, yeah, I say Tennessee.
Next up, we'll go Jacksonville Jags at Houston Texans. Texans are favored by 8.5. Ooh, that Monday night performance could shoot that right up. I can see that at 8.5. Quarterback Minshew going against that Texans pass rush. I don't like big point spreads. Do you?
No. That's
It
automatically when you said
I
8.5. I was like, okay.
God, I hate when they're that big because those big ways, I always go the opposite. The Sex Panther special, but it's got to be
30% of the time it works every time.
Right? Yeah. So would the Texans win by 10? Oh, gee, you'd have to think so. It's a division rival, though. I'm going to keep it tight.
I'm going Texans.
You're going Texans? I'm going to go Jags.
Gardner Minshew, I think, still has a hangover from when he got hit in the preseason by Kenny Young. So he had a good week, but I think it was just one of those. It was like drunken master. He just kind of was just going on instinct, and I don't know. That Texans defense, they'll be tough.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jags. I'm just going to go the other way, play the dog here. The division rivalry, it's got to get a little closer than that. I don't know. We'll see. The next up would be the Niners at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 0.5, half a point they're getting.
Wow.
That's slim.
That is very slim. Now, I know the Bengals had a much better showing than expected. I think they were giving 9 to Seattle, and that was a tight game down the wire. I'd go Cincinnati with this.
Yeah, totally agree.
Jimmy Garoppolo is suddenly back to earth.
Yeah, I'll take Cincinnati as well. Buffalo Bills at New York Giants. Giants are plus 2.5. Eli.
I'm going Giants because you realize they only gave the ball to Barkley. I think it was 15 times.
Yeah,
which is just insane. What he is the offense, and Eli is in the autumn years of his time there. They got to right that wrong. They got to make sure they get their best player the ball as much as possible. I like the Giants in that game.
Yeah, I'll go New York as well. Now you're going to love this one for point spreads. Patriots at Miami Dolphins. Dolphins plus 18.5.
All right, I gotta pick the Dolphins in this one.
Do we got to draw the line somewhere?
It's right? 18 points.
Yeah, and with the history,
Is that the University of New England against Miami of Ohio? That's like a college spread.
Yeah. How often? I mean, my rule for NFL has always been, especially Super Bowls too, because every Super Bowl is rung true, I think. But 14, if it's over 14, you go the other way, no matter what. 14, or you know what I mean. You always go that divider. So yeah, I'm going Miami as well. New England, we've seen their history. It's hot. Maybe Tommy doesn't like hot weather. Yeah. I don't know. I'll go Miami there.
Yeah, so will I. Just on principle.
Yeah. Cowboys at Redskins, division rival. Redskins getting 4.5 points. I still like Cowboys here.
Yeah, so do I. And I'm trying to push my just general disgust for the DC, anything DC. But Cowboys. A lot of people like the Cowboys. I think it was maybe it was Rich Eisen who was just like, oh, you got to watch out for these guys. They're for real. I don't know. But yeah, I'll go with Dallas.
Next up, we've got the Vikings at my Packers. Packers getting 2.5. I'll take Green Bay on this one. I think this could definitely be your 23-20 game, your 17-14 game. I think last time they went to overtime. I can't remember. But they play each other tight every season. So I'll take Green Bay with this. I think they can cover that.
I'll say go Pack go. Yeah, they're Lambeau and division game.
Then we've got the Seahawks traveling east to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers getting 3.5.
Steelers getting 3.5.
Ooh, here we go.
See, and again, I touted the Seahawks earlier. I do think that the Steelers might be in some decline. I mean, I don't know how you can lose players like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, and I know they have some other players like Schuster, but I mean, I think they showed if you take Schuster away, this offense became a chuck it and pray kind of offense.
Yeah.
I mean, Seattle defense, I think Seattle can go in there and beat them.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Seattle as well. I do like them, even though they're on the road traveling cross country.
Right.
I think that's your play there. They're kind of hot. I like them. And then we got the Cardinals at Baltimore. Baltimore favored 13.5.
Oof. Ugh. 13.5.
Yes. I got to stick to my rule here. I got to go Arizona. It's just too big. It's too big.
Oof. Yeah, you got to go Arizona. I still think Baltimore should be able to win the game, but I don't know if they're not going to have this explosion. Those things are kind of rare. I think you had a storm of a couple things happening. Yeah, I'd have to with that spread, I'd have to pick Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah, I would go. That's just too big. That if they win by 7, great. I think it's going to be a little tighter. Both quarterbacks can make plays. I'm looking forward to that game this week.
Yeah. Should be an interesting
wait
game.
to watch it. The Chiefs at the Raiders. The greatness of the Raiders. Raiders getting plus 8.5. I got to go Kansas City on that. I know they just beat down Denver, but man, Kansas City it's a good rivalry. I think Chiefs can take that for sure.
Yeah, Denver is not the Kansas City offense, which even without Tyreek Hill was just continuing to roll.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes still doing superhero-like things. Nah, you got to go with the chefs.
Yeah, until they show me otherwise. The Bears traveling to Denver. Denver is getting 1.5. I like the Bears. That defense is just too nasty, man.
Yeah, same way. And I think we'll see Joe. He'll make a couple plays, but we saw some of the old themes return. Guys dropping passes. You know, him not getting help from guys. He led a couple of drives, but then also came up empty. So I think in the end that leads to a loss, and the Bears win at Mile High.
Next up, we'll go Saints at the Rams, LA Rams. Rams are favored by 2.5.
Oh, this is a revenge game.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
This is total revenge play.
Saints got to take this one. I mean, I just got that feeling it ended up being a much closer game with Rams Panthers. I think Saints are out to prove something. I think it's a revenge game. I think they get it.
Yeah, I think they are. They're going to come hard for this game. Sean Payton, I love him as a coach. I've always liked him. I think he's got the squad ready to go in LA and lay a beat down. Philly, the Eagles at Falcons. Falcons are getting 0.5.
I'm going Eagles. I mean, I don't know about Matt Ryan. Still a little iffy. You know, the running back situation a little muddled. And Deshaun Jackson, with his homecoming to Philly, 2 touchdowns, puts a bolt of speed back into the receiving core.
Yeah.
It's going to be a difference maker for the offense. So I like Philly.
Give me Atlanta. I don't think the Falcons can be that bad. They started against the Vikings. They're going back home to their dome. It's nice and loud. Philly struggled a little bit with Washington, but I'm going to go Atlanta. I do like to go the other way a lot on these picks just to be different sometimes. The
Sure.
Final game, Browns at Jets, and the Jets are getting 2.5. Are the Browns that bad?
I agree with you. I don't think they're that bad.
No.
They're going on the road after that home opener. It will be interesting to see what adjustments they make. On paper, the Browns, I think, are a better team. But, you know, I mean, the Jets snatched defeat from the jaws of victory last week. I'm going to go Browns.
Yeah, same. Browns. Anybody on this slate of games, I don't know if you're writing them down or not, but any games that you want to lock and load? Who's your lock? If you want to pick one.
Lead pipe lock of the week. I'll lead pipe the that Miami will cover.
Yo,
I just think they have to. There's no way they're going to lose.
lock and load.
Are the Patriots going to really pound them by more than 18?
Yeah, I can see that one there. I'm locking. I'm going kind of the opposite of you here, but same theme. I'm locking Arizona.
Yeah.
Saddle up.
Yeah, I think the
Lock
Ravens'
and
offense
load.
really looks improved, and they've got some ideas in where it really is built around what they have, and I think they'll do well with this run-pass option, almost this old Greg Roman Niners style offense. But they're not going to put up in the 50s every week or even the 40s. So
I think they win this game, but not by the 13.5, whatever. I think they can hang. I think they're almost like mirrored offenses of each other. I really do believe in that Cardinals offense. I think they're going to take off this season, just not yet. I think they got weapons. They've got, the mindset, the potential to do good things, but I think it's going to be a little while, but this week it's going to be all Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, well, let's close it out here and we jump into this. That's going to wrap up week 2 of the Purple Rain Fantasy Podcast. And as always, thank you very much for listening, supporting the show. Continue to hit us up on Twitter. Give our articles a read on purplerainshow.com. That's where you can find Matt Jergensen's third and long best weekly article. Variety. We got Ravens content on there, fantasy content, much more. It's purplerainshow.com. And like I said before, we're all active on Twitter, so make sure you interact with the crew on there. And as always, good luck to everyone this week in your fantasy leagues. Check back for next week's episode. I appreciate you listening. Matt, you want to sign off there?
Oh, thanks for having me. A lot of fun talking fantasy.
Hell yeah.
Like you mentioned, Purple Rain Show, third and long. I appreciate the love. A lot of fun doing it. I do have one more plug. I started a new podcast of my own with my longtime friend Brent Harris. It's called Baltimore Blitz.
Yes.
We're on Podbean, and we're now also recently on iTunes. Brent and I are friends going way, way back, and people in the local scene know Brent because he has covered the team since the beginning. He's now doing the 105.7 post-game wrap-up. For years, covered the team with Fox 45 and Comcast Sportsnet.
Sweet.
So every Wednesday, so we should be taping tomorrow. We'll tape the show, and it should drop for your Thursday commute. So we've already done 2 in the bag, and we'll have plenty to talk about as Arizona comes for the home opener. And not a whole lot to break down, but a lot to smile about with that win for week 1. So
hell yeah.
Make sure I'll check it out, Baltimore Blitz.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that. Make sure you tag me in it, throw it out there,
Absolutely.
And we'll definitely give that a listen for sure.
Yeah, all right, this press conference is over.
Go away,
No, it's over, Phil.
Well, please,
It's over.
That wraps up today's episode. For even more fantasy football content, find Frank on Twitter at FantasyWireHQ and online at thefantasyfootballwire.com. Be sure to tune in next week, and thanks for listening.